The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar titled Deploy Your Coronavirus SME Guarantee Scheme Loan Origination Software Today, presented by Newgen Software, a global software vendor with product and solutions in the space of business process management, enterprise content management, and customer communication management. All right. I thank you all for the overwhelming response we have obtained for this webinar. I'm Jay and shall be your host and the moderator for this webinar today. Today we have with us Mr. Karan Haplani, who is our subject matter expert in SME loan automation, Newgen Software. We'll discuss how the Newgen Coronavirus SME Guarantee Scheme loan origination software solution can benefit the business SMBs and the end user today. All right. At the end of the presentation, we'll be having a question and answer section where we'll request you to type in your questions in the question window of your GoToWebinar anytime during the webinar, and I shall take them up at the end of the section with our experts. All right. So with that, I hand it over to Karan.
So hi, my name is Karan Harplani, and I represent the solution and consulting practice of Newgen, Australia and New Zealand. I will take you through what Newgen has to offer in terms of the SME guarantee scheme, the lending automation software. To start with, we look at the current landscape of the small businesses or the SMEs in Australia. So there are a total of 2.31 million businesses in Australia, out of which 98% of them are small businesses and form 2.3 million of the overall number. Out of this 2.3 million, 38% of the businesses are not sole traders, which means they employ more than one staff. So the breakup is as follows: there are businesses that employ 1 to 4 people, contribute to 27% of the overall businesses. Another 8% employ between 5 to 19 people, and another 3% do more than 20 employees. So this data has been taken between the years 2014 and 18, and the data states that out of all the businesses that were registered in 2014, 82% of them were able to survive over the next 5 years, and 82% of the businesses that survived had more than 20 employees, and 78% of them had between 5 to 19, and 70% of them had between 1 to 4 employees. Out of all the businesses that established in 2014, 88% of these businesses actually sought finance, and the breakup in terms of the employee staff is shown as part of the presentation. Out of this 88%, 94% of them actually received finance, and 94% of the overall applicants were given approvals. So the top 3 reasons in terms of why these small businesses were actually looking for any kind of a financial product or any kind of a loan product have been listed there. So 40% of them wanted to maintain short-term liquidity, 32% of them wanted to ensure survival of business, 24% of them looking at replacement of equipment. So we can ponder a thought upon here that in the last 5 years, close to 1/3 of the businesses were actually looking at a loan product just for survival. And in these turbulent times, these numbers can always go up. So what the government has done to support these small businesses, the Australian government came up with an coronavirus SME guarantee backed loan scheme, in which the government would give 50% guarantee for a loan that a small business is looking at. There are certain conditions for that. One, that the business should have a turnover less than 50 million. The maximum loan amount sought could be a maximum of 250,000 Australian dollars, and the loan term could be a maximum of 3 years. So under this scheme, government made offers to 34 lenders in the market that included banks and non-banks, out of which 25 have been onboarded as part of the scheme. Details around that can be found on the Treasury's website. So for the new lenders that have come in, or for the new lenders or lenders who've come under this scheme, they face multiple challenges, except their staff being remote, working from home, social distancing being the major challenge. There are certain other internal and external challenges that these lenders face. So we'll look at the internal challenges first, because it's a new product. So most of these applications that these lenders are getting are being handled through a makeshift process. Most of it is manual. All these lenders right now have limited digital options for ingestion of data and documents from a borrower. So right now, if we visit most of these banks or non-banks on their websites, as a borrower, one can just leave their name and number and a query regarding the SME guarantee back scheme. So what they are basically missing is real-time eligibility checks and guidelines. Plus, to deploy any kind of a software right now requires time and money. So that is also one of the challenges that these institutions are facing. So this is something internal to the institutions. However, there are other external challenges that they face. So during these times, they have their own regulatory compliances that they need to take care of, because there are multiple and tons of customers who are approaching them for these loans. They need to handle spike in application volumes. Plus, they need to keep their customers informed. So the customers need to be informed both in terms of status of their loans and how their applications have been processed. And at the end, they can submit a report to the taxation office stating in terms of how many loans were booked and how many loans were disbursed. And also, because it's a non-asset backed finance product, they need to do their own due diligence. They need to take care of the nuances around the processes so that the loans could be given in a less risk-free fashion. Moving ahead, so what Newgen has to offer as part of the COVID guarantee scheme, quick loan origination software, to overcome these challenges, the software is ready to go, can be deployed right now, is available on cloud, has simple 4-step process for fast and simplified processing for disbursement of loans end to end, plus takes care of the nuances or the credit appraisals, risk appraisals, underwriting, financial splitting, etc. So all that comes as part of the solution. Has a standard process to follow, which gives enhanced productivity. Even though the process has been made simple, but nowhere the business validations or business rules have been compromised. So the complete process is rule driven, provides real time reporting. So dashboards can be published at any given time from the software itself, and is cloud-based, is available on AWS right away. Also, the advantage that Newgen brings is that the product, the domain experience, the delivery of the software, and the support of the software all would be provided by Newgen. So what would it take for a lender to have such a software up and running? So what Newgen would do is, as soon as a contract gets signed, Newgen would enable an instance on cloud for that particular lender. So it's a multi-tenant platform, and one tenant would be dedicated to that particular lender on that particular instance. All branding configurations for that lender would be done. There are user training modules that are available for the lender's staff. So these are, we are talking about videos, PDFs, manuals that they can refer to. So they can go through the training, perform a quick functional testing, and can have a minimum viable product go live in as soon as 48 hours. It does not limit in terms of expanding the base product in terms of accommodating new functionalities that could be done, new integrations could be built in, and then it could be followed in a phased manner to have a comprehensive end-to-end lending solution if required. So we look at the software demo. So the four-step process works as follows. So these are the personas, and we'll see them as part of the demos. So the one is the customer who gets who's the borrower and gets a front end to provide data and document and do the minimum eligibility check in terms of whether they qualify for the product or not. Once the customer has submitted the application on the portal, it moves to the customer service officer who can perform the due diligence, or in case required, can get back in touch with the customer for additional data or documents if required. Once the due diligence is done, then the request would move to the underwriter who can do the financial analysis of that particular application and provide their recommendations and also approve the final loan amount. Once that is done, it moves to a disbursement officer. So this can be a one-step or a two-step process with a maker checker in which all documents, data is checked once again. A loan contract is generated and sent out to the customer, and then disbursement and booking is done in the core banking system or the legacy system that the lender might have. So we'll quickly move to the demo. So the demo starts with the front-end customer portal. So this is the portal on which the customer can provide their data. So starts with the key contact details of the customer. There are validations that have been put in on the date of birth. So date of birth cannot be a future date. Plus the customer needs to be at least 18 years of age for that particular loan, how long they have been associated with the business. Then they can check the eligibility. So as soon as they keep completing questions, they are moved to the next question. Plus there are validations that talk about in terms of if the business has more than 50 million of turnover, they might not qualify for this particular scheme, but are eligible for other products. Then the customers can further answer questions. So in case the loan would be required to refinance an existing loan, does not qualify under this scheme, whether the taxes have been paid till time. Now, in case they have registered as a sole trader, they would be shown that they might be eligible for a job keeper payment, and then they can be redirected to the government's website. So once they have pre-qualified, they would know that they qualify for this particular loan product and can further continue their application. So these are some of the questions that a lender would like to ask them. Plus, they can select in terms of the loan product that they are looking at. There's a validation in terms of the maximum loan amount that can be requested. So as soon as somebody puts the loan amount more than 250,000, they won't be allowed to process the application further. So we'll go back and change this amount now. The maximum tenor can be 36 months, maximum moratorium can be 6 months. You can select the repayment frequency in terms of the loan, the interest rate is fixed. Post that, as a borrower, I can punch in my business activity statement data for the past 3 quarters. So we'll quickly do data entry for a couple of quarters. So looking at the business activity statement as a borrower, one can input total sales subject to GST after adjustment. So that forms G8, then GST on sales, total purchases subject to GST after adjustment, GST on purchases, what is the salary, etc. And then we could, as a borrower, this could be done for multiple quarters. This could be made mandatory for, let's say, the last 2 quarters, depending on the lender's requirement, or the last 3 quarters, or the last 1 year, that can be done. And so as a borrower, when someone keeps entering data, the system would keep on doing the cumulative calculations in terms of at the end of the table. After that, they can do they can provide furnished data for their existing loans, so they can select the institution, what kind of a business loan that they are running, what is the sanctioned amount of the loan, what is the outstanding amount, what is the repayment or the EMI that they are paying, what is the frequency, and when is the loan going to get completed. So the more data as a borrower I can provide, the easier it would be for the lender, and it would be faster for the lender to process the application. So we'll continue with the we'll continue with this, and so we'll provide data in terms of loan completion date of the second loan. Then the customer can provide further applicant data. So provide customer ID, provide an ABN number, and they click fetch. So this data gets fetched from the ABN lookup website. So this comes from the central database. It tells you what is the entity name, whether the entity is active or not, when was the ABN activated, what was the last updated date, GST date, and then for data that is not present and that is mandatory, as a borrower, I can publish that data. So there are validations around turnover. As soon as somebody would put in terms of turnover more than 5 million, the loan would not get through. Industry sector and subsectors are provided. Then they can furnish the business phone numbers, business email IDs, and then business website. So we'll quickly do data entry of the business website over there. After that, the customer can provide data on the business primary address. We can also integrate with Australia Post to do an address lookup over here. In case the mailing address is different, the customer can specify that the mailing address is different, and then they can provide the different mailing address. So we'll keep it as the same. After that, we can also they can also provide data in terms of related parties to the business. So the number of shareholders, directors. So the number they choose, as you saw on the screen, the form changes dynamically. Then they can provide data around the management and the ownership. Now this could be the same key contact person that the borrower had provided data about on the earlier screen. That data can be populated again here. So that option is also available. So we'll quickly go ahead with the data entry, select the relationship, let's say director, 100% ownership, is an authorized signatory, provide driving license as the ID document number, document expiry date, again validations in terms of cannot be a past date. So all that have been built. Post that, depending on the product type the customer is shown, the set of documents they can upload document. So we'll quickly upload a couple of documents. Let's say a sample cash statement, driver's license for the shareholders or the directors, that sample balance sheet, and post that as a borrower to provide this consent. So this consent can be configured and I can continue, and then I get the reference number. So we could also provide additional data in terms of profit and loss statement, balance sheet, etc. in a worksheet. So this worksheet would go to the underwriter in the backend. After this submission, the application moves to the customer service officer. So this view is for the lender. This application is available over the web, so nobody needs to be in office to work on this. They can work from home. So it goes to the initiation queue first. So the request number was 437. So we'll open that particular request. As a customer service officer, I can see all data and documents provided by the borrower on one screen. So we can see data for individuals, we can see data for entities, organization information, identification information, contact information, shareholding pattern, then documents that have been submitted on the website are available for the customer service officer to look at. Post that, they can also look at the eligibility questions that were answered on the portal, then the loan information. So all this data comes as it is. So all this data was captured from the portal. Also tells in terms of the documentation that has been submitted or is required. In case they want to send further communication for any document, they can check the document, click on communication. So it opens an interface from where they can send the email to the customer. So we'll quickly send an email, and they can also see all the attachments in terms of that are available with this particular request in terms of the documents. The content of the email can be configured as per the lender's requirement. So that will follow this lender stationery. We'll click send. And then under the communication log, we can see that an email was sent. So all emails that go out to the customer or come back from the customer are maintained, and then they can submit it to the underwriter. So what happens? It's a business process based system. So that same request would land into the underwriter's queue to work on. So right now we can see all these queues. However, these queues are user access based. So the underwriter would open that same request 437 and see all data that the customer had provided, plus can check the eligibility, go to the loan information section. At this particular point in time, as an underwriter, either I can see existing covenants that are there, or I can even add more covenants, provide terms and conditions on covenants as an underwriter. So it's a free flow text. This would be a part of the loan contract if required. Provide borrower business background, management background, industry information, credit turnover in terms of the accounts, debit turnover, details around that. Financial analysis can be done. So now this financial analysis would open the underwriter's worksheet. It is similar to what the customer saw. In case this data is provided by the customer, they can see all that data. The ratios, etc., are automatically calculated. Repayment capacity is automatically calculated. Stress test is automatically calculated on the sheet. So once this is done, depending on their analysis, plus they can provide debtor age analysis, credit creditor age analysis, provide comments on each of them, balance sheet, profit and loss analysis, cash flow analysis, in case there are any other remarks that can be done, can provide further, can do further expense calculations, and then provide the final loan amount that they think the customer is eligible for. Now, this loan amount can also be auto calculated in case required, so can be can take care of the administration charges, etc., and then can do an auto calculation. So then they approve, and the request would move to the documentation officer to check the complete data and document. So they can provide their decision comments, and all decisions that are taken on that particular request are captured in the decision history. So we'll see it and the next step as well. So now that same request 437 has moved to the documentation step. So as a documentation officer, I can open that request from my queue. I can see all previous data and documents, the eligibility, everything is there. So we are saying that the flow of information is there. They can see the loan amount approved, financial information, and comments provided by the underwriter. Now at this particular point in time, this system can integrate with a third-party system if required to generate documents, who can be any document generation system, right? So that can be done, can be sent for a digital signature from the customer, or we can generate any kind of CSV text file, comma separated, pipe separated file that can be used to ingest into any other system. So after the documentation step, the documentation officer would send it to the disbursement officer. We can see that in the decision history, it is captured the decisions that were taken, who's taken the decision with user ID, loan amount approved, and the comments. So on the decision comments, we'll simply specify that the loan can be disbursed and submitted to the disbursement officer to work on. So now that same request would move on to the disbursement queue. That's 437. So as a disbursement officer, I can again see all data around loan information, around what the customer had provided in read-only format. Again, what the underwriter has written is also made available for them to look at. At the documentation step, what documents are there. At the communication step, what communications are gone out. Capture the final disbursement amount, disbursement, when would the disbursement be done, debit account details in terms of from where the repayments would be made, and generate a loan agreement letter that could be sent to the customer. So this actually takes data from the application dynamically. This loan contract can be configured as per the lender's requirement, can be downloaded, can be sent, can be printed, can be sent and in an email to the customer. So once all this is done, the disbursement is made in the core banking system. They have captured the routing number for reference. They can submit this application, and this is where the 4-step simple loan process would end. After this, all data and documents that were submitted against this particular request will be archived in the document manager. So we'll also look at the document archival and search now. So we'll log into the document manager or the document management system. So we can go and search under folders. So under 437, it would show me all documents that were submitted for that particular request. What are the key metadata for us to search documents? So we'll also perform a quick search in terms of the document using for non-individual. So we'll use, let's say, the entity name. Now, in case we don't know the complete entity name, we can do a wildcard by providing a star, and then it would list all documents that were provided by the entity. We can click the document, it would show the document that was provided with other data, when was the document provided, etc. Then we'll move on to the dashboards. There are dashboards that are available. So in multiple tabs. So these tabs can be configured as per business requirements. Reports are available both in graphical and tabular format, are interactive in nature. So at runtime can be changed in terms of the inputs and outputs. So we'll quickly look at one. For example, I don't want to see loans that were given to the education industry, but rest we want to see. So we can toggle between that. And then we can call applications or portals that don't perform or that are not part of the system from outside. So can call any external applications. So there are reports around covenants, around loan disbursed, personal guarantees, etc. So that can be done. So this is what is there as part of the package. So we get all of this. So we quickly recap in terms of what we saw. So we saw a customer front end portal where you could perform loan eligibility check, loan information. Data capture was done. Business data capture was done. Documents were uploaded, consent were provided. There was rules driven eligibility check that happened. There was clear messaging for the applicant or the borrower in terms of what they need to do. So that was there. So there are scenario-based validations and messaging that run in the background. Once the application got submitted, it went to the customer service officer who had a single view for application and documents. All data from the portal they were able to see. And in case there were any documents or data that was missing, they could send out an email to the customer, and a log of all communication between the customer and the customer service officer is maintained as part of the solution. Again, just to re-emphasize that all templates of emails, of contracts that we saw would be configured as per the lender's requirement. So they will be a part of the branding configurations that we looked at in the earlier slides. Post submission, it moves on to the underwriter. The underwriter can look at covenants, provide further covenants if required, provide data on further data on terms and conditions, data on business background, management background, industry information, credit turnover, debit turnover, looking at the booking accounts, age analysis in terms of debtor age analysis, creditor age analysis, so that can be provided, plus further recommendations. Also, there was a sheet for the underwriter that would do all the ratio calculations, all the stress test, all the repayment capacities, etc. Automatically. Based on this, the underwriter provided a loan, the final loan amount that could be disbursed and their recommendations, and then it moved on to the documentation and the disbursement steps. At the disbursement, at the documentation, sorry, it was just a normal check of documents and data being present. Once that is done, it moves on to the disbursement step, where details around disbursements are captured, details around which account, from where the repayments will be made are captured, and then finally a loan agreement letter is generated. So now, again, to touch upon, this could be done through a third-party system if required. There is an option to integrate this with digital signature systems like DocuSign, Adobe eSign, etc. So that can also be done. Then we also looked at some reports and dashboards and also external applications that could be called from the system. So there are reports that are specific to the process, plus there are other reports that come out of the box. So there are around 30 reports that will just deal with in terms of uh, data present in the process, how effective the process is, how efficient the users have been, or how efficient there are the actors of the process have been. So there are reports around that. So that also come part of this software package. So there is status and tracking. So at every point where the application moves from one step to the other, the customer can be sent out a status message so they know in terms of how their loans, how their application is processing within the lender's organization. So that could be done via SMS, WhatsApp, email, or status could be posted on the internet banking portal if required. And then there are certain other important features. So at the end of the day, there would be a CSV or an XML or any pipe separated or a flat file that can be generated. This flat file could be used to integrate with other systems uh, that might require data from this platform. So uh, so that it's easier for reconciliation. Plus, that same data could be used to send to ATO if required. All views that we saw are customizable and would be customized or configured in terms of the branding guidelines of the lender. We saw a document manager which comes with its own full set of comprehensive document management features. For every step in the process, there is an SLA or a turnaround time that has been defined and is configurable as per lender's requirement. Again, that can be done for each step or for the complete process. And in case SLAs or turnaround times are being missed, these can be sent. There can be auto escalations done for those particular requests, so that can be done. Plus, there are audit logs that are maintained for any action that are taken in the system. So that captures user ID, date, and timestamp, and also the IP from where the action was done. The system is immediately available on cloud, follows multiple security guidelines that are listed on the screen. Virus scanning is available as part of AWS, right, in terms of all document uploads. The system could be made more comprehensive with optional integrations with external credit bureaus in case we want to do further credit checks. So that could be DNP, Equifax, Experience, Moody's, S&P Global, etc. Also, it can be integrated with OSPOS to do a digital ID check or an address lookup if required. So overall, what do you get as a lender as part of the software under one package? So the customer front end portal, the back office process, and the document manager, including dashboards. So that is part of the process. So where you get end-to-end tracking of your requests, there is intelligent processing where rules, validations, auto computing, etc. is taken care of, reports and dashboards for managers and seniors to look at. Any kind of communication that is going out from the system is configurable and generated. So that could be emails, contracts, etc. So all that comes part and parcel of the software. Also, it gives you an omni-channel experience, which means that it can be accessed from any kind of device. Could be a desktop, could be a tablet, could be a mobile device. Also, it caters to other ingestion channels, like it can integrate to a third-party system and ingest data from there for processing of loan requests. Can also cater to brick and mortar channels where a borrower can visit the branch, submit a handwritten form, and then that application can be scanned and ingested into the business process that we saw. Is integration ready? Can expose its own APIs to integrate with other systems and consume APIs from other systems to make it more comprehensive. Is scalable both in terms of users and functionality, and is secure, as we saw the various security guidelines on the previous slide. So what it can eventually result in, so these are some of the numbers, and these numbers have been derived from a lot of institutions across the globe that use us to process business loans, so can result in as much as 80% reduction in time to deliver the loan, almost 10% compliance in terms of quality around the processes, reduction in operational costs could be cut down to almost 50%, so that can be done. So these are some of the numbers. So quickly giving you an introduction about Newgen in terms of what we do. So we are a product-based organization headquartered out of India. We operate in 66 countries in 5 core verticals, and banking and financial services being the strongest one. All our products and solutions are industry recognized and have been analyzed and appreciated by analysts like Forrester and Gartner. We are close to 3,000 employees, and we have multiple patents for the products, softwares, and solutions that we have to offer. Some of the financial institutions that enjoy benefits that we looked at using Newgen's products and solutions can be seen on screen. So these are, some of them have been using us for more than 20 years now. Some of them have been using us for more than a decade now. So we have very strong partnerships with all these financial institutions that we are looking at. So that is what we had to cover as part of this particular software, and we can now open the forum for any questions if required.
Thank you, Karan, for your valuable insights on the coronavirus SME's guarantee scheme loan origination software webinar. Thank you to the entire audience for your valuable time and tremendous response. We should be sending across the presentation as transcript for all the questions to you. Goodbye and have a great day ahead.